Hello, hello, and welcome back to Lovely. Happy Friday. I think it just hit me today that we are almost at the end of summer. Sorry to bring the bad news. I don't know, I'm kind of excited for fall. I lit my pumpkin spice candle today. So I feel like I want all the cozy fall vibes. But I know when fall is coming, people also start to talk about like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if like I had a boo thing, I'm on the couch with them, I'm watching TV. And I was thinking about this. So if you're single right now and, summer's ending, you are feeling like, okay, well, summer was all about going out and doing this. And now with fall, like, am I going to feel a little bit lonelier? And you see other people around you that have their person. My advice to you is I would not ask you to be less picky in this era of your life, okay? Because I feel like a lot of times loneliness can make something that's almost right feel right enough. So if anything, I need you to get pickier, okay? If you see all of your friends that are in like relationships or people are getting engaged or moving in together and you're thinking like, oh my God, like when is it my term? First of all, love that for them. Congratulations to your friends. But that's exactly when it becomes really easy to start negotiating with your standards and the things you know you don't want. So I'm going to start this episode off by just saying, do not let someone else's timeline lower your standards for your own life. My guest today will have some thoughts on some of the things that I shared in my intro, but also a lot of other questions around dating today that I have. Her name is Evelyn Alvarez. She is based in New York. She is an entrepreneur. She considers herself as a community leader. She's also the founder of a company called Prom King. She is a doula and she is also a mother. And I think she has a really interesting perspective on relationships, on identity and womanhood. So we are going to get into all of that. Evelyn, welcome to Lovely. How are you today?
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm doing great. Happy to have this conversation. And I really do like the fall. I'm a fall spring girly. I feel like fashion is best in the fall. Like your makeup is
Yes.
flawless. You have like high boots. You could still wear like summer gear with like a little jacket.
Yeah, it's more sexy.
You got your maroons, your deep browns, your nail polish.
I am an October baby, so fall is my favorite season. But yeah, I'm happy to have you here. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, but I love to always start with who you are and who you were and how that's, shaped your experiences and how you move through life. So if you can walk us through, or if you can give us some insight to your connection with immigrant identity and how has your upbringing shaped your womanhood or how you like move through life?
Sure. So my parents are both from Guatemala. And so I am the first generation daughter of an immigrant. The entirety of my family was also born outside of the United States. It was odd because I didn't really consider myself like a USian until I was probably in my 30s, right? Like my entire upbringing, everyone that I knew was a child of immigrants. So I think that was just standard, right? Like there was home was not any place in the US. Traditions, customs, habits are all in line with what my parents remembered, particularly my mom, her experience in Guatemala. So I would say that has always been normal to me.
And then tell me a little bit about who was Evelyn as a little girl, or even in the days that you were dating. Like, I want to know what kind of relationships you had.
Okay, so you know what? As a little girl, I was probably, in retrospect, I was precocious, I guess. I was one of those kids that was super curious.
Mm-hmm.
As a dater when I was younger, I think I was probably less demanding than I should have been.
What did that look like? Less demanding.
Like, just kind of going along with the vibe just for trying to keep the peace. I'm the one that was in some ways grateful to be chosen. It's a generational thing that I feel like a lot of people from my age group may have really been also denied access to like things like choosing sex first or things of that nature, right? Like there was like there's a way to be good in the way that people oriented and navigated. And that was in retrospect, I was like, damn, did I date? Absolutely. I had a damn good time
Ooh,
dating.
do tell a story.
I always say that like I loved going out. Like I was like that person. I was meeting people online before it was cute. Like I mean, I'm talking about like before like Black Planet era. This is the early 90s. Like I was outside. And so I always liked going out with people. I always liked meeting people. I always liked having fun. I loved dating. Like I was not that girl that was like any date has to lead to anything special. When I was about 20, maybe even younger than that, I used to listen to, there was like a cable access. There's like TV channels that were actually access channels where like individuals could have shows, right? So I remember calling, I was watching something on like cable access and I remember calling in and it was around Valentine's Day. I was calling in and I was requesting a song and like the DJs were like, hey, tell us about yourself. And I was like, yeah, I'm this, like I live here, I live in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, well, do you have a date for Valentine's Day? And I was like, no, I don't have a date for Valentine's Day. And they were like, why? Like, why? And I was like, I don't know. No one's asked me. Oh, well, our friend here, he can take you out. Randall can take you out. But because I was that type of girl, I was like, all right, well, then Randall, I guess, is going to take me out. So I waited. Randall and I exchanged information. And sure enough, Randall was a person of his word and ended up taking me out for Valentine's Day. Now, similar on this side of the world, similar to in Toronto, in Valentine's Day, it's freezing cold. This is prior to me having like a cell phone with unlimited minutes. I was 45 minutes late. Randall waited for me in the cold. We proceeded to have what is probably one of the best dates I've ever had.
That's how it happened.
It affirmed that A, just try some new things. Also B, that like if it doesn't work, like I tell my son that all the time. I'm like, you're not a tree, you're not planted, right? If it doesn't work,
you can leave.
You can leave. That's always been my theory about like meeting people. Like I've always been a believer that sometimes we meet the right people at the wrong time. And that also is a real value. Like there are some people that you have to understand your values so that you can really be clear, oh, we don't jive on any level. But I think that most people actually would have like not life-changing relationships, but you could find something to get along with. You can go to a concert with someone, you can go to dinner with someone. So I really believe in the value of meeting people and just being in it for the fun, the story.
100%. And you know what? I love that story, but it kind of makes me sad because A, we don't have the radio anymore. These types of like serendipity type moments, I feel like have gotten less and less in this generation of like being more technologically advanced, right?
Also, unfortunately, people want perfection out the gate.
Yes.
That's really a difficult thing to attain, right? Like that you want someone to meet all of your checkpoints without really being flexible about what is something that people can grow into. That's one of the challenges I think with dating in this climate is that we meet people at like what we think is our personal best, right? Like in order to take a good picture that we're putting on the dating apps, we've taken 30, but we don't ever talk about those 30. We talk about that one that we like the most. And so I think that there are a lot of challenges with trying to be perfect out the gate.
That's such a good analogy of like taking a million pictures, but then only choosing one. But before we go further into that, what happened to Randall?
Well, you know what? Randall and I went out like twice. It didn't really pop. And it was interesting because there was chemistry, but I guess there wasn't enough chemistry to maintain an effort, right? And that is okay too. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful that these things happened when I was younger because then I was able to really introduce complexity into dating relationships, right? Oh, sometimes you will like each other. You might like each other enough to even have sex with each other. And all of those things don't mean that you are going to, this is the person that I want to invest time into, like ride off into the sunset or to navigate problems with. Like sometimes that good time stays a good time and that's it.
Are you dating right now? Are you with someone?
I'm actually married.
Oh, how long have you been married for?
In October will be 5 years.
Oh, congratulations. And how did you meet this man?
So I met dude when I was with somebody else.
Oh, do tell.
It's
I
messy, girl.
love messy.
So I met dude. He was part of like this group of people that were doing hip hop karaoke. And they would do hip hop karaoke, which was, I think, the funniest thing. And hip hop karaoke is different than regular karaoke. It was competitive, essentially. And also, they had to know the lyrics. So you had to like really act the lyrics out. And so I had met someone who was like, oh, I do hip hop karaoke. Come with me. Met dude. They were friends, or like, friendly. They were like in the community. And I didn't think anything of it. At some point, the guy that I was with, he tells me, hey, some of the fellas and I are going to take a trip to Toronto. We're going to do a road trip. So we take this road trip, right? Me and 5 men. All right, we're in this minivan. We're driving up from New York to Toronto. We proceed to have the best time, great weekend. But almost immediately, the person that I was with, I was like, oh, this ain't going to go the distance. Dude was one of the 5. There was no energy. There was no chemistry. It was no overlap. Came back to New York, and a couple of months later, I used to do this thing called like my Lonely Hearts brunch. So for Valentine's Day, I was just like, hey, I'm inviting everyone. It was like maybe 15 of us who went to have brunch. And I had actually intended on setting dude up with one of my friends.
Were you attracted to dude? Like you were like, he's
I
cute.
wasn't quite, you know what? It was like, he's cute, but he's, like I wasn't thinking about it. And I tell my girlfriend, I'm like, yo, I think he's really nice. And she goes, you mean the guy that's looking at you like you're a TV dish? Like, girl, what? So I completely was clueless. I didn't see it. And then I'm like, really? So we ended up going out a few weeks after that. And that was it. So we ended up dating for, like, kind of loosely dating for a long time. And we decided to get married 5 years ago.
Oh my God. Well, don't let your boyfriend stop you from finding your husband.
Okay. The funny thing is that I would definitely not say that the other person, it's way more complex, but like the other person was not my boyfriend per se, but it was somebody that I was outside with. And that's what I think that also is part of it, right? Like you never know where it's going to happen. You got to be comfortable with like sometimes a level of discomfort, and be a grown up and be like, I made a choice.
Absolutely. And I feel like we put so much emphasis today on how like dating has to be so strict and has to be so serious when like you just need to bring fun back into it. And I would love to get your take on this. So, Esther Perel, she was asked, what do you think is happening with modern dating right now? Why are people struggling to like connect? All of that stuff. And she said the thing is, you need to stop dating outside of your life and you need to start dating inside of your life. What she means by that is the dates that people go on, dinner dates, drink dates, you're sitting across from the person, you're asking them all these questions. It's like an interview, right? So she's like, it would be much nicer if you're like doing things in your everyday life. Like, I'm going to a show, I'm doing this. Do you want to join me? Now, I understand, like, women sometimes have to like think about the safety aspect. Like, I'm not saying go on a hike and invite someone, you know what I mean? But if you're comfortable within the second, third, fourth date, like invite them out with your friends and then see how they're with you in the real world. Are you seeing that happen, or would you like to see more of that happen? Was that happening back in the day?
I mean, you know what? I feel one thing that I don't see that younger people do a lot is like they don't have mixed group of friends. Like I remember like friends groups, right? Like people would just kind of go out with like a whole bunch of their friends, regardless of gender, sex, and just kind of go out and have fun. Like, oh, we're gonna go to the park and watch a movie. We're gonna go to the club. I do think that in a lot of cities, the loss of the third space of like a nightclub has impacted the way that people don't date anymore because there was practice in being like bold, right? You want to ask somebody to dance. You wanted to kind of have a quick conversation that might lead somewhere that might not, right? Like I was raised with like in Brooklyn where there was lots of parties. Like you would go wind up on somebody for a while and then walk away. Like so everything didn't have this weight on it. And I think that sometimes like we're in a space now where people want things to mean things prematurely in a way that doesn't that forces intimacy and doesn't allow it to bloom organically. So I feel like they're absolutely like you should do things that you like. If you like running, if you like going to basketball games, if you like going to the movies, like if you like being a foodie, right? I do think that the more comfortable people are doing what they like, And they will also find somebody who understands what they like, even if they don't match it to a T. But I do think that it's really important to have some time where you're doing things that you like just because you like to do them and not for the purpose of trying to find somebody or meet someone.
I agree. And I'm just thinking about that right now. Like every time I go out, I either see a really big group of girls or I see a really big group of guys. And you're right, they're not mixing. And when you mix, then you kind of like ease into it a little bit. So it's not like you're just at a bar and you're immediately walking up to someone as a stranger. You first like you have mixed groups, then you hang out a few times, and then they muster up the courage to like go hang out separately, but how okay, so how do you enable that culture today?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that we're doing a good job of inviting people, of being friends, if I'm honest, right? Like, I think that we need to improve the way that we are friendly with each other in ways that are just kind of neutral, that are just chill. Like, just come outside with me. Let's go to the supermarket. Let's go to do laundry. Like, let's do things that are really low stakes and have fun. Like, I don't know that often in this climate, people are prioritizing fun. I feel like we're manufacturing fun. Like, we're doing things good for the gram, but we're not actually having fun in the process. And so I want people to really prioritize like joy and fun as part of really centering themselves and liking themselves. Because I do think that then you're not really forcing this experience of feeling like when someone chooses you, that that's when you're going to like yourself. Like, you're liking yourself and you're recognizing the asset that you are to any room that you enter. And that, I think, also builds a lot of confidence and it builds a lot of stamina for dating, because then you're getting clear on what is for you and what is not for you.
And I always say I get my confidence from my life and not men's attention. And I know when dating is occupying a little bit too much of my time or I'm going crazy because like someone hasn't texted me, it's I don't have enough with my friends or with myself going on in my life. But you also have to find the balance because you can't be too independent in your own life that you're not giving the opportunity to even receive or welcome some sort of attention. I want to talk about Tia's Choice, which is the dating show. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I find the concept refreshing because in a world of people being exhausted choosing their own partner or choosing their own person to go on a date with, you now have this panel of women that know you that are looking for not just immediate short term traits, but maybe something long term. So that's my perspective of it. But I want to know, how did you get involved into it?
Yeah, so Tia's Choice is a show that is, I'm one of the tias, which is aunt in Spanish, and it's on YouTube, super fun. And what we do is that we help our sobrina, currently, our niece, to be able to find love.
Matchmaking. You're
Yes,
matchmaking.
matchmake. Yeah,
Or
it's
setting
match.
up a blind date. You're setting someone up on a blind date.
Yes. And so we're vetting the potential suitors to be able to ensure and help her make the decision, right? So the sobrina makes the decision, taking some of our questions, curiosities, wisdom into consideration, and then they go on a date. So I got involved with this. I was basically contacted and we're like, we follow you online, a little something. We really enjoy your content. We think that you'd be great for this. And I was like, okay. Like, it was just that easy.
Welcome to Tia's Choice, where one lucky single trusts us.
Go Titi, go Titi. To find her next date. We'll put a lineup of contenders to the test to see who's worthy of our sobrina.
She's watching from a secluded room, but has no say in who we choose. In the end, they'll both have to decide. One,
it's three of us, and so each of us are different. Like, I feel like in some ways I'm like the pragmatic one, but also the funny one. We're all funny. One person is a writer, another person is a social worker, so there's lots of different perspectives and dynamics, and we ask really thoughtful and sometimes invasive questions. And I do love the kind of throwback element of it, where families were closer together too, and when somebody came to pick you up at your door, there were multiple generations of people like, who's that girl? I don't know. Tapping into that energy and also inviting any prospective suitor to know that the person that they're taking out is someone that is cared for and that we ain't gonna tolerate no mess.
First of all, where are these pool of men coming from and what are you specifically looking for? And when have you found a contradiction for some other Thea looking for something different? Like, I would love to know the process.
Oh, we disagree all the time, right? Which I think is also really fun and it adds, to the dynamic. So all of the Theas are not always in line with some of the responses. Like we just recently had one. This is a clip that's on Instagram right now from Thea's Choice. And it was like, what would you do if someone came up to you in an alley? Like, how would you respond?
Girl, someone rolls up. What you do? What you
See it, I can already.
Hey, yo, 911, she crazy. Watch out, baby, watch out, baby, watch out.
That is also a tactic. Number three, what you doing? What you doing?
I don't know. I will just look at him like.
Don't play with
My
it.
heart's racing right now, I'm not gonna lie.
Are you serious? You want to escalate this situation? That's it.
De-escalation.
You don't have to go straight to violence.
That's it.
You could just talk it down, and I
That's a
appreciate
valuable
that.
skill.
I think I might protect them better, but
It was funny because each of us thought differently about the response, right? Somebody was like, oh, I'm a kick ass. Like somebody else was just like, I would just talk to them, someone else, and so each person would really, it vibes with how you experience life. Sometimes like they might not choose the person that is my top choice, but I will also recognize that they'll take in some of the advice and some of the perspectives into consideration and making their own choice. And that's really important. I don't think that dating is supposed to be just for ending up in a happy ending. I do think that in an ideal world, it also helps you to really understand yourself more and differently. And if you really prioritize the idea that with most interactions, I'm going to learn something about myself that I didn't know before, then I think that you end up in a better space because otherwise you're giving up your power. Right. You're saying this didn't work. And now that says something negative about me. And 9.5 times out of 10, that's absolutely not the case.
100%. I'm a big, big, big advocate for you have to be selfish when you're dating. Like, of course, be like human about it and communicate, be transparent, but do not feel guilty. Like, if you are not in it and you're not feeling it because you see a different life for yourself, you see a different like qualities that you want in a partner, that's it. Like the person will get over it and you will get over it. You will do both people a lot more harm if you stay in something that is not fulfilling you. You said you ask invasive questions. Give me some examples of some invasive questions.
They might share an example of what kind of kisser they are or how soon into a relationship are you expecting to have sex? Where would you take someone on a first date? And then we'll give them feedback on that. Like, oh, that's cheap. Like that kind of energy. So I do think that there are, what's your, kind of estimate of how much you're willing to spend on a first date, right? These might be considered invasive, but they're also invitations for people to think about how to express themselves creatively, right? Like maybe you are on a budget. Maybe you're just like, the first date, I really do want to have just a random, more casual type of engagement that leads us to have more flexibility, right? Because there is a formality with dinner, for example, where it's tremendously awkward to leave a dinner table and say like, well, I don't like you. But it is a lot easier to chug your Jamba Juice and say, well, you know what? Thanks for this. And it feels less hurtful and less harsh, which I don't think that people actively want to be. You said selfish, and I think that it's really about it's you in the dating space, right? Like you don't owe anyone anything when you're dating. And I think that if you're really looking at it from the perspective of I'm trying to gain data, I'm trying to just have a little fun. I'm trying to because also you left the house, you put on blush maybe, or or you at least you put on you try to look halfway decent. The effort was already there. You may as well go and have a good time and not just leave it to the other person to give you a good time, but you're also coming with like, a spirit of possibility, a commitment to fun, and also a deep understanding of what your big no's are, things that are unacceptable under any circumstance.
Oh, right. Like your non negotiables. Right.
Right. Like your non-negotiables about content, about like jokes. Because I do think that when people have these real clarity around what their non-negotiables are, what your big no's are, then you can also make quicker decisions. Somebody makes a joke about like harming children, we don't got nothing else to talk about. Those are the types of real tight decisions that we should be prepared to make and not just in dating, right? Because I do think that sometimes people feel like, oh, when I've chosen to be in a relationship with someone, there also are things that people that you're in a relationship with, right? No one is perfect, and there are things that you're going to continue to learn, and there are things that the other person is going to continue to learn. So, really being committed to recognizing where you're also invested in somebody's growth, right? And you're not necessarily invested in their growth at the beginning, and you're also not always giving people access to your growth at the beginning, right? So there's a decision that happens somewhere along the lines of the dating process where you're like, all right, I want more from you. I want to experience more. And that comes with like a little bit of patience.
Yeah, I think the point of the first date is simply to know if you want a second date. All these like formalities of like, oh, are you my guy? Are you my girl? Like, no. Those are 6-month questions on date one. Like, first of all, and then you suck the fun out of it. Like, what do you mean? Now you have to go and make this big life decision that like, oh, is this my person or not? No. Put on some lashes, throw on some blush, go to the date. The thing I love to do is if I'm not sure about the vibe, and dating is a numbers game, so you have to go and date. So I've been on my fair share of dates. But if I'm not sure about the vibe, I will still go, but I will say, "Oh, I'm meeting you at like 7:30, but I have plans with my friends after."
And if it gets good, you might decide, hey, I want my friends to give me a perspective. Certainly, I've had a share of dates where I'm like, I'm going to meet people afterward. And, if I really like them, I'm like, oh, come with me. I'm going to see how you behave around my friends. I'm going to see what their perspective of you is as well. And again, we're here to have fun. If it doesn't work, it's okay, right? Like that's I know that it sounds dismissive of the very real desire that we all have for like companionship, right? And love and care. And I do think that having a perspective similar to the one that you're talking about is like, it's a numbers game, right? Like, you might need to date a whole bunch of people to find someone that you want to spend more time with, and you might not. You might need to date someone that doesn't look like the person that you might have always wanted to, like your type. And that is something that also requires a little bit of flexibility and understanding. Like, so for example, I always thought that I would have, like I'm an immigrant. I always thought that like my ideal partner was going to be someone who was also an immigrant, who liked to party, who liked the music that I like. I want to go dance salsa or soca or reggae with someone. And that was going to be it, right? And also I am short and fat and I run for the bus maybe. Like that used to be my reality, right? And instead what happened was that I the person that I ended up loving was a gym rat when we met. He was African American, did not like soca, did not like calypso, did not like doesn't really like reggae. Like all the things, and I was just like, we ain't never gonna have shit in common. Like, what? How did we even get here? What ended up happening was that we were so curious about each other that there were some things that it was okay for us to be like, this is not what we're going to do together. Do we go to parties now together? All the time. Do we travel together? Yes. Do we go places? Yes. But I think that when you care for someone, you're also willing to make concessions, right? And compromise. And that compromise will show itself at the beginning too, right? It doesn't have to be that you do everything specific, but I always think that like they don't have to do it. They have to be willing to learn about it.
Totally. More curiosity will definitely lead you to compatibility, right? Because you're learning more, you're curious. And this concept, like I was reading a book the other day, and this author was talking about the concept of there's two types of people. You can either be a diminisher or you can be an illuminator. And a diminisher is someone that doesn't really ask a lot of questions, or very self-focused. They don't ask you like follow-up questions. They're not curious. But an illuminator will make you feel seen and heard because they are genuinely curious to know how you operate in life, and then are interested in you. And I feel like I'm not trying to generalize, but with dating becoming exhaustive for multiple factors for all parties, people have now fallen into the diminisher bucket when they go on first dates. And they just want to like, sometimes I have left dates and I'm like, I know everything about this man. The only thing I don't know is his social security number, but like he doesn't know anything about me because he didn't ask me questions, you know? And I do a podcast, I'm in consulting. I naturally am curious and I like to ask good questions. So that's why also it's important to first, like, I think it's a big red flag if someone you're on a date with is not asking you questions or is ask you one question, doesn't ask you follow up questions. And when you are done with the date, you need to ask yourself, was he fun or was I the fun? Because I feel like you too, like, I feel like you were alluding to it, like, you're going to go out and you're going to have a good time. It's going to be fun because you're fun. But you also need to find the balance of like, you can't be bringing the fun all the time. But if you're curious and you ask the person more interesting questions, then they become interesting, right?
And also recognizing that, like, is it that the person actively doesn't want to ask interesting questions or they don't know how?
Okay. Can you teach that?
Yes. I think you can model it and you can also name it. Just be like, you know what? Like, hey, I know that I'm talking a lot. What are you about? Right? Like, ask me something, right? Like really intentional. Cause I think that also what happens is that we don't like, it's not making a demand, it's inviting equity into the conversation, right? So it's like, what do is there anything that you want to know about me? Like, cause sometimes what happens is that when you're a good dater, you talking, you giving your greatest hits, baby. You're just like all the things.
Greatest hits. Yeah, for sure. But also sometimes, why are you so smooth? Like if a man is too smooth,
Personally, I like a little bit of awkwardness. Like you know what, like as a dater, like to that point, to your point, like if they're too smooth, I'm like, oh, you do this shit all the time. Like I don't want, like, but a little bit of like awkwardness. Like I want you to be a little stumped by me. Show me a little vulnerability, like show me a little something. And I think that because, similar to you, I'm a person that talks all the time. I'm a good talker. But I also recognize that I attract people that are the silent type. And I also think that in the world that we live in, we actually discourage men from talking. Right? Like like online, you literally hear things people say like, "Don't talk, men." Right? Don't say this. And I do think that talking is how you kind of move through a thought process, a pattern, like you discover something different. And so if a lot of your world is happening in your head, you're not going to be as loquacious. You're not going to be proficient in having dialogue or conversation with other people. And I need to make room for the fact that, like, I might be the talker. I am an expert talker. Like I get paid to talk. You don't get paid to talk. And so if as a person who cares about other people, I have to take that into consideration as well and not expect them to match my skill in that way. And so but I think that when people are not taking that into consideration, then you will actually blame the other person for skills that they don't have.
I feel like you have so much good advice and wisdom to give. I do want to bring the focus a little bit back to you and kind of like understand a little bit more, where does all this like experience and advice come from? And I wanted to touch on your doula, right?
Mhm.
For those who don't know what a doula does, I would love for you to kind of explain it to our listeners. But I'm very curious to know, like, why you? Like, why did you feel called to become one?
I just want to finish up the first part, like the conversation of like just the experience that I've had. I've also had like tremendous heartbreak, right? Like there's not the space of tremendous heartbreak. Like, my breakup with my baby daddy was like epic hurt. Like I was like, I don't even know what to do with myself. Like it was hurtful. It was stressful. It was painful. And my perspective sometimes leads people to think that there's an absence of pain. Right? There's an absence of heartbreak. And like there absolutely is not an absence of heartbreak. There is just a more of a commitment to like, first of all, I ain't gonna let nobody's child indicate the way I'm gonna live my life for the rest of my days, right? Like that's just too much power, too much control that somebody else has when they get to, one monkey ain't stopped the show. And if it didn't happen with you, I'm going to go back, lick my wounds, figure something out. And that figure it outable stuff. And also really the chasing of joy is also something that led me to become a doula. Like I'm really a curious person. And so I'm that person that'll be like, oh, I like this. I want to do it. And so what happened is that when I was pregnant, I felt like pregnancy was a little, well, actually not a little. By a little, I mean a lot, right? I felt like it was really lonely. None of my friends at the time had had babies, none of my close girlfriends. And so I was like the first one out of my friend group that had a baby. And there was really like no one to talk to about things. And also that when you're pregnant, people don't want to hear the downside. They always want to hear like, you're glowing, you look great. Nobody wants to know that you feel like shit, you're tired, your feet hurt, you can't see your toes, right? Like all the things. So when my friend started becoming pregnant, I was like, girl, what's going on? I was like, are you constipated? Are you having sex? Like, what's going on? And they would be like, ew, you nasty, you nosy. This would be at brunch, mind you. And then I would get home from brunch and someone would call and say, like, remember when you asked about the constipation? Like, what do I do about that?
Yeah. Community is so important.
Right, exactly. Community, but also transparency, right? Like people want vulnerability that they're not willing to give. When I ask people how you doing, I want to stay to hear the answer, right? Like I don't want you to just tell me again your greatest hits. We're friends. Have your back through the flop, and by the time you finish talking, that flop won't feel like a flop to you. I'm gonna help you reframe it, right? I would have that experience, and my best friend was like, "You should become a doula." And I was like, damn, I should, right? So this was like on a Sunday that she's like, you should become a doula. On the Monday, I'm having a conversation on Facebook, right? Well, this is how long ago it was, with someone that I had met on a parenting group. Because when I was pregnant, I felt like, I was lonely. So I turned to like websites like Baby Center to be able to build community. And I was telling her, mind you, this is at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I tell her, my best friend just suggested that I become a doula. And she goes, oh, my neighbor has a doula training agency in Brooklyn. And I was like, for real? So as she's talking to me about it, I'm Googling it, open up like tab number 70. You know how we got like 85,000 tabs open. And I open up tab number 70. I see the information, and right on the front page of the website there is a content or like an essay. They're doing a free doula training. Like if you win, you get to take the training for free. So I sent it, mind you, we're still chatting back and forth. I put up my answers and I send off the email. 2 days later, they call me and they're like, hey, you submitted your essay and we'd love to gift you with this training. So I took the training, and that's kind of how I became a doula. And like, but I will say that I've had that same perspective on a lot of different things, right? So I really love weddings. I went to a wedding that I felt was so beautiful, and I really loved the officiation. I remember bypassing the bride and groom, who were my friends, to go to the officiant to be like, I love what you did. I want to do it. So I became an officiant, right? Like, yeah, I'm really curious about like everything that you can do in life. And I think that that has really served me to just be able to develop also relationships with people, to be able to kind of rebound. And I feel like these are all skills that have served me as a dater too.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, so many like lovely things that you said there. You're really curious about your life and you actively participate in your life. You're like, if I want to do this, I'm going to make the plans. I'm going to go give the compliment. I'm going to follow my dreams. And then that in return, that makes you resilient. And that's why the heartbreak ratio to someone being extremely glass half full, like definitely makes sense because what do you have to lose?
Yeah, and it's something that like you can learn. Like there is, sometimes like there's nature and there's nurture, right? And
Yes.
certain perspectives you can nurture, right? Like there, especially when you're the child of like immigrants, I think that
Yeah.
part of how that shows up is very often, like I was raised very much in a household that was like, if you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say anything. So what that left me with was a lack of being able to express myself to get what it is that I wanted because I was always looking for the good. And
Yes.
I was
And you
not
become a people pleaser
right.
sometimes because
Absolutely.
you've been told to restrict your expressions and thoughts for sure.
Particularly when they're like in the negative range. I was constantly trying to prevent conflict. And so that one of the other things that have really been important is to be okay with conflict. And I think that sometimes what happens is that being okay with conflict doesn't mean that you're also looking for it, right? Like I think very often people lead with this idea that um they didn't do something that I like. I can't be around them, right? Like you have to use your discernment as a grown up and also to recognize that, one thing that I think is also something that is to our collective detriment as a society currently is that people only want pleasure. Like everything is led by this desire for pleasure. And not that pleasure you shouldn't receive it, but just this real understanding that like some shit requires work. It requires effort and the pleasure comes later. And so if it doesn't feel good on moment one, then immediately people dismiss it. And I think that there has to be a better dance of how to say, this isn't perfect, but I'm curious enough about it to invest a little bit more.
100%. Yeah, you have to. The immigrant daughter experience is so real because I don't do this anymore, but I was always like, whenever I had a point and if I was telling my dad something, the point wouldn't even be heard. It's the fact that you're making the point is considered you're showing me attitude. So years and years and years of that, you make it spill into other aspects of your life, work, dating. You start to like not tell people what you actually want or how you actually feel. So then when you try to overcorrect it, I think sometimes people can fall into separate buckets. You look for conflict. But I think when you deal with conflict in the right way, I think that creates intimacy. Like being able to tell someone, hey, I didn't like that. Can we talk about it? Brings you closer because then you learn how to fight and then you're doing that. And I totally agree to your point. We have taken protecting your peace to a very toxic point. Like you are over healing, overusing therapy language, and you are not allowing people the service to like make it up to you or vice versa.
And that lack of conflict to consultant pipeline is a very real thing, right? So there are also a whole heap of us, putting my hands up, right? That we've moved from not really having conflict at home and not really knowing how to navigate it. And now we're in a position of being consultants where we're giving people advice, right? And they are not necessarily, there's no circular dialogue, right? And so I think that there is a practice to being able to learn how to be a better listener. Because I do think that often what happens also when you have that like lack of conflict to consultant pipeline is like, you're still not putting yourself in a place where you're going to have debate. You're not putting yourself very often in a place where you're going to have somebody tell you, I disagree with that. And that is a skill that needs to be honed with intentionality, with meaningful friendships.
Yeah. Like, don't be so loud and wrong. Like, someone has to tell you.
And I think that all of these commitment to personal growth, we do that. Like I always, one of my homegirls and I, we talk all the time and we say that we cannot be the persons that we think we are in our mind without community commitment and connection and companionship, right? Who I am in my mind only gets to play out if it works with other human being people. Because that's what people want. They want the life of going out and taking risks, and they want to do that in their living room, right? And then when they decide to come out, it's this kind of desire of, well, people should be grateful that I came outside. No, you should also act like you're grateful to be around other people. And there's a dance that happens there, a connection. And I think that it makes everything better. It doesn't make everything great all the time, right? We will have shitty dates. We will have dates that are like, why did I leave the house? It's a waste of lashes, all the things, right? I never want to see this person again. But that also is part of growing, right? Like if you go to the gym, every workout is not going to be the best you ever had. You cook something, every meal is not going to be the best one you ever had.
I love all your stories. And I feel like if people want to hear more from you or they want to find you on socials, where can they find you?
You can find me. My handle is @ripeness, RIPENESS.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Lovely. I feel like we covered so much ground today. Dating, what it means to have all the skills as a woman, going through different eras of your life. And I really, really loved how honest you were, but also just like how like authentic you were. And I feel like some of my favorite conversations on the podcast are always the ones that I'm thinking about even after the recording is done, which I'm definitely going to be doing from today. And to everyone listening, I hope there was something in this conversation that made you think, made you laugh, or maybe you look at something in your own life a little differently. And as always, if you like the episode, send it to someone you think would love it too. And definitely let me know through Instagram your thoughts. And yeah, thank you for listening to Lovely. And I will talk to you next week. Lovely is an Immigrantly media production. This episode was produced by Sadia Khan and Shay Yu, written by me, Mahek. Theme music, sound design, and editing by Lou Raskin. Other music by Epidemic Sound. And see you next week for more Lovely.